hazy and bright, tropical grooves with a grapefruit bite.
Yeah, I see your image on LinkedIn. This is so cool.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay.
Ooh, now we're back to the real stuff.
Cannons. I know.
Oh,
it tastes better.
You could just taste the difference.
I know.
It's so much better.
I know.
Oh, well, cheers to 2025.
I know.
Can you believe it?
24 wasn't great.
Okay, let's talk about that. What about 2024? 2024 did you not like? We're recording.
I should say we just left a dear friend up at mountain snowboarding.
Yeah.
That's remarked the same. We're very close to him. He used to be our neighbor down the street, and he's moved and renovated a home, and he has a cabin, and we always go and we're walking distance from the lift. It's just fabulous. And he went through like a 4-year relationship, and they finally called it quits. And she became family to us. He's family to us. And he was like, I just need I know I don't want to be ungrateful for some of the phases of my life. It's a chunk of time. He's in his, he just turned 60. So he's like, I have to start over. I don't want to start over, Yeah. And he's got 2 grown kids. And so anyway, it's a little bit more taxing when you're doing those intros and they're looking after you and he's trying to that was tough for us to go through with him. Mm-hmm. But from a work perspective, I just don't want to. I just want to utilize my resources more at my fingertips. Like if I just think about it for a second,
yeah,
they're all right there.
Yeah,
and I get overwhelmed. I just need to remove that worry and have more confidence in all of these resources that I have here, right now, and just go.
What's stopping you?
What?
What's stopping you?
So
is it too many sometimes?
I love it. Yes. There's so many. There's so much coming in. And for a while there, it was like, oh no, pandemic. This is all now going digital. And what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I always innately have that scare. And I also know that you never really get stressed out unless you truly care about something. So, and I know that this is my baby. So I really want it to work out in the end, all the time, every year. But now I don't know how to juggle, and there's a lot of great prospects coming my way. So I need help. I know I can't singly do it solo on my own. So it does take time to find those unicorns that can help you out. It's not easy.
Yeah. So you would say the number one thing there is that there is a lot coming down the pipeline. You don't know how to reach or find the people to help kind of facilitate.
And I don't want to turn any of these down. They're fabulous projects.
That is such a, but don't you do know on the flip side, that is such an incredible problem to have.
I say awesome problem all the time. It's so important to recognize that. I understand. I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because I think on the flip side, I feel the same way. It's like, I was trying to think back on how 2024 was business-wise. It was best year ever for me, hands down. If you look at numbers, if you look at engagement, if you look at broadening into things that I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
And yet I still was like, someone asked me, like, how was your year? And I said, if you could summarize it in one or two words. And I said, it was like autopilot, though. It was like, it's kind of what you said, where I just let things go. Like, I was like, I'm just along for the ride. And then I was realizing, like, that kind of unplanning and that kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. I was like, what if I do control? I felt the same way you did. It was like too many things happening. I was just along for the ride. I wasn't steering. And I questioned that, like, if I could do another year like that and actually be a little more in control of it, that would be the ultimate. I'm
surprised to hear you say that, because in my mind, the Nick that I know is wired in a driver's seat fashion.
Yes, mostly. That is me. But this year went I literally was like, tell me where to go next. Like, that was how every day was. And maybe it was juggling too much.
And maybe now that looking back, hindsight can be a bitch, because we wish we would have taken enjoyed those factors more so than it had stressed us out now looking back.
Yeah, I look back at it and it was like stress.
We're seniors now. Why shouldn't we see it that way?
I know. You're right. Like, but there's so much more. I keep hearing people saying too, like, what's like, everyone wants like a second act or something. Like, no one just wants to do their 9 to 5 for 40 years until they retire anymore, right? You have so many options of what you can do. And I was hearing a lot of people saying that, like what's next for them and all that other stuff. And I feel like I'm lucky enough to have found a lot of that in this last year. But you're right. It's kind of like maybe I let it happen and didn't control it or steer it the way I would usually do it.
Yeah.
And yet it was still fun and it was still great. But I know how much more efficient and better I can get. And then there's also the stuff that I feel like I let slide. And that was a lot. You know, the things piling up when I got back home, or the non-responsiveness that I was doing with email.
And the amount of bottlenecking, like staying up late 2 nights, 3, setting the alarm for 3, setting the alarm for 4, just to get prepared, feel confident, look at it with fresh eyes, get it. I know. I know.
So if you give, maybe that's the lessons, like, you know, of when you look at the year, like what are the things that you want to kind of leave behind, right? We were talking about like detoxing your life here.
I love that term, detox.
I know, design detox.
Episode.
Anything that works good with two letters, 2 words that start the same letter.
For sure.
It works great in copywriting for sure.
Yeah, it flows.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of those things, like what's the number one thing you do want to leave behind when it comes to any aspect of running the business, being the creative you are. What's your number one thing that you think you would like say, I'm going to leave that to 2024, no longer in 2025?
I know that when I started picking up these AI practices a little bit, and they are in little mini bites, baby steps.
Love that, yeah.
I was starting to see, I was feeling far better going to bed at night that very given day.
Whoa.
Like,
yeah.
I that wasn't too much of a push. I can do this.
Was it the fact that you felt like you like, whoa, I could sleep better because we knocked something out today?
It's a win-win. It progressed me. It progresses the account.
Yes.
And are you transparent about the areas that you utilize?
Oh, yes, 100%. I think that's a thing we all got to do.
Same.
To keep...
I didn't hide it either.
To keep responsible on it. Because, again, I keep saying it's like the carpet's been pulled and we're all sitting here floating in the air, coming down on how we're going to live with AI in our world. So,
and that disclosure is what furthers relationships altogether.
Yes.
But I wanted to circle back on one thing that you said earlier, Nick.
Yeah.
Those areas where you were just along for the ride and not taking it by the rein to the extent that you wish you would have or could have. Client doesn't need to know about that. We don't. We don't have to share those areas. And if we did, wouldn't it shock the hell out of them?
Probably.
Because depending on the role for any given account, they see me as the consultant. Like, let's just ask Mikelle. I'm not sure. Let's prepare this list of questions for our next meetup. We defer to you. And it is very humbling to be that person with those types of dynamic relationships that come into place. And you wouldn't want to, there's a time and a place where you can like kind of, let it hang a little bit lower and be like, from a candid perspective, I will share with you now that we've had the second round of review. I wasn't feeling confident in X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
To humanize the process, to humanize the nature of the relationship and who you are altogether. That's a healthy thing. But I would have never done that in my first 10 years.
Totally.
And so are there areas that you let go and you let your guard hang a little bit? And is it dependent upon the point of contacts?
Yeah, it was all that. It was doing multi things. It wasn't just design with clients and school as a little side gig, right? It became all these other things that particularly involved travel and involved my participation in a totally different manner than just working on client work. And it was putting together a presentation or putting together a talk. And this was all very new, exciting as fuck. But that's where I think the flying by the seat of my pants was, because I was like, just like anything else, the fear wasn't there.
Did you have a lot more of that face-to-face interaction this year than you had anticipated?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Beyond.
I have to say that's so cool.
It was, exactly. That was the thing. It's such a learning thing, and you have to look back at these years and say, what are we leaving, right? What are we taking on, and what are we adding? Yeah. And to me, I want to do more of this. I want to do it a little more calculated, though. And I think what I did was said yes to everything. I said yes to everything. And there were nights where I'd finish a class at 10 p.m. and
crank when you came home.
And I was on a red eye to another city overnight, and I would be doing something at 10 a.m. at another city, and then back the next day, and that was crazy. But do
you have subs that can step in for you
for school or for work? School, no. What we do is if that ever happens, we could do online stuff for particular days that we are missing. Like, let's say you have a very important thing, and it's like class is going to just be impossible that day. It's very rare, but we can record and do a virtual lecture, and we have great software that puts it out to all the students. You can even assign a quiz to it, next steps for their project, and I could look at their work anywhere from the laptop, which is great. Okay. So that kind of helps it out a lot. And I just found ways to do it where it didn't disrupt that as much as I could. Like, I think that we only missed 2 days that really, everything else was just squeezing it in that day and a half I had between, and then keeping up with the clients via like your laptop or any chance you got. But to me, that was the neatest thing to exercise, and now I'm excited about doing it with a little bit more of my normal planning and routine to make sure it's a little bit more structured. You know what I mean? For you. But I had a ball with every step of the way.
Good.
And beyond grateful that it's something that happened. I think I've been wanting to do that for a long time, which is great. But it was like, okay,
that's a lot.
It was like 16 trips over the year. It was wild. So, and it's building up again for this year. So now I get to look at it and say, what do I really want to do?
I know what to do better. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And does that mean, I think we all struggle with this too. Like, any of us that are doing our solo entrepreneurial jobs, right? Or our one person kind of creative things, we're all dabbling in something else somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And if one of them does kind of explode, like you're like, oh, damn, like I kind of wanted this, so be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for, and how to strategically find those pockets of time that don't exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
To cross over to the other role.
Yeah.
So what's the percentage ratio between school and business running altogether, would you say? For 24?
Yeah, for 24, I would say work, business, client stuff was about 50%. I'd say travel, speaking, and all that other stuff was maybe 25, and school was 25.
Okay.
Does that add up?
Yeah, 50-50.
There you go. And you sprinkle in some other stuff and little things like, trying to, keep up to date with your marketing, keeping up to date with your case studies.
Yep.
And all those little things that sprinkle
I need to improve in that arena.
Which is something, I'm sure that's on everyone's wish list for 2025, which is true. But, that was kind of the balance, I would say. I got to also throw in that, I met the most insane and incredible people along all these different kind of opportunities. So I've never had that part be so robust, is the going back to like you said earlier too, after COVID, like what was that going to look like when it came to conferences or meetups and all these other things?
Yeah.
And like, are we going to just be working
It's
virtually
kind of
for the rest of our life?
It's kind of coming back into the fold slowly. I mean, all these all the trade show booth projects really started coming into play this past year for me.
Same.
The large format jobs.
Isn't it great? Like it's
For
all
these
back.
huge- yeah.
It's so, I remember people going like, oh, they'll never be the same. I'm like, can't think that way. Like, of course it's going to come back.
And remember, everybody used to say that about publications, magazines, all the print material, and it is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never went completely under.
No, not at all. And I think then I heard there's this new, someone said something like, I think overseas in UK, the book sales are up like astronomical.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting that people want the physical book again. They want the print. And I know tons of people out here that are probably very happy about that too. But
for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's like, of course it's going to come back. Like, you can't.
You know what comes with that though, are all those frustrations with the vendor that like doesn't provide the proper template to you to prepare the production files and everything. Like, we get to complain about that again.
I know. What do you think? What's taking up too much space right now, or in 2024? What was taking up too much space that, like you said a lot too? There was like so many different things that were opportunities and everything. What took up too much space in your mind over 2024 that you'd love to erase a little bit of?
Surprisingly, the amount of back and forth for feedback rounds. It was annoying.
Good point.
Annoying.
Yeah, what happened? Do you find it's like, are you dealing with different kinds of people that need more hand-holding when it comes to?
I think so. Yeah. And having to remind, can you consolidate all of this feedback and let's have it prepared on Fridays only.
And from one, and
don't send me a text and a Slack and an email that's discombobulated with fucking feedback.
Yeah, or from 15 people. Like,
oh God,
right? Yeah, Jack's giving you his point of view,
tough.
and so is.
How do you organize that?
Oh, I do it from day one. The contract says you get the opportunity to hand select a single point person to work with me. It says it in the contract. It's like, and I make it a positive, right?
Point of contact.
Point of contact. And that person has to funnel all information on behalf of the company, including the highest people.
Yes.
Because when you tell them that, like, now it's definitely worked, but 2024.
There will always be the trickle-ins.
Mikelle, I have a client that surprises me like crazy.
All of those project manager individuals are at the mercy of the C-level individuals. And those C-level individuals finally find the time to look at what's in staging before launch.
Yeah.
There was a whole slew of weeks prior to this that you could have sent that feedback.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I really struggle with
that's crazy.
Scope add-on. Okay, that's gonna cost you type of mentality. I don't want to be that bitch.
Yeah, But it takes up. You're right. It does take up.
It does
a lot of time, a lot of and unnecessary time, space, worry, repeating yourself over and over again. Sometimes is kind of how it works too. Like I could look at the Little Billy's team. That was working right with the people that the money was coming right out of their pockets, right? That's the ultimate situation in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Now, that usually means there's a cap on how big that company is and maybe what their budgets are.
True.
Then I've got my biggest client who has hundreds, if not thousands of employees.
And you never speak with those.
And I found out that like we were a year in and then surprise, surprise, some bigwig saw it, didn't like anything. And now I'm covered. Legally, I'm covered in my estimate. We had to start all over. Budget-wise, I'm good. I didn't lose anything. But it is a little bit of a, it's just a hit. Like, you're like, what? All that's gone? Like, we're going to go right to something totally different. Why wasn't that person looking at it? Isn't that your job? And then
did that individual eventually share or admit or say sorry or?
Oh, my contact is fantastic. Yes, my contact is the way
Because that's
the way
a
they
lesson learned for a number of individuals.
the way they
actually.
explained it to me. No, they were, and they're like, their first words were like, you know, we understand in your contract you said if this happens, we totally understand that. They've got a budget, which is great. But again, now I'm saying,
Are they recalling that your contract initially noted all of that because they did the due diligence of reading it themselves, or that you overviewed it verbally with them prior to official kickoff?
Probably a lot of both. I think they really, because they were surprised that I gave them one because they had one ready to give to me.
Oh.
And I knew because of their size, I better have, not only are they going to get what I usually get, but I made it like 5 to 6 pages longer because I was pretty scared at first going, well, they're a big company. Mm-hmm. And so I want to make sure. And I remember reading somewhere, it's like, hey, I don't care if it's 1,000 and you're one. You come to the table with the agreement before they do, just so it shows that the professionalism of you, but it also shows like, hey, this is, I have issues as well. I have things that we need to make our life better and to make it work and protect both of us. I've got one too. So it was both. They read it, but they had their own too.
Okay.
But they were perfect. They're like, hey, we got to redo it. You're getting paid. No big deal. But now, do I have to say more in my contract that says, like, even if it's above and beyond the people we're talking to, and there's someone else that's any other stakeholder, you know? So, and of course the stakeholder, I shouldn't say this.
Well, you're being generic.
I was told that this person has a design background somewhere. So I was like, well, all the more reason they maybe should have been in the first stages.
Yeah, process-wise.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. So anyways, that's what took up, I think a lot for me too, is that back and forth. It was harder to get the client to say yes.
Escalated for me for sure.
Yeah.
It really did. Now, there were years of my freelance experience that I supported. She became kind of my mentor over time. Mm-hmm. That I supported a larger freelance organization, and I was one of the UI designers.
Yeah.
And she'd provide feedback, and then we'd present together in collaboration. And she would hire a PM for every given account. And it was so much more organized because as an independent so-called agency, she knew what it took. Mm-hmm. And so she would pitch decks that embodied a whole slew of individuals that fed expertise based on roles. So she wouldn't take jobs that were just her working solo. She would only take jobs with large accounts that took a whole team of us. And I learned so much from her.
Oh, it's invaluable, right?
And I thought, for sure, I remember thinking at the time, there's no way I'm going to be able to get to where she's at and run my own thing and embody subcontractors like this, you know? I just didn't think it was in the skies for me.
Yeah. That's great. Like, isn't that interesting that self-doubt, you don't even, like, I'm sure nowadays you're just
no, that's good.
Doesn't even come into play.
I actually am just spitballing with you here. I forgot that I felt that way at one point.
Oh, but how great. That's the thing. Like, but you know, you can recall it in a minute and say, like, what a lesson that was I learned there. Now I'm probably doing that to somebody that I work with.
Yeah.
Like,
and listen to this.
The roles change.
We had like kind of a debriefing together. I wanted to ask her some very personal questions about her running her business with a set of subcontract freelancers that she collaborated with. And I said, so at any given time, when you're prepared to pay these individuals, do you wait for the client to pay you, or do you pay up front just you? She said, oh, I always ensure that I have a buffer of 20 grand to just pay team members. And I remember hearing that and saying, are you fucking kidding me with that?
Yeah. How?
What? Come again?
Yeah.
Did you say 20?
Right? And now you're like, you had to hear that.
I did. I didn't know how much I did, but it scared the bejesus out of me at that time.
I love the same as much getting that information from someone in my past, but I also love paying it forward to someone that needs to hear it.
It's
now.
so important.
And that number might be totally different for you, right? Or whatever. It could be 10 grand. It could be 5. Whatever that world of subcontractors is.
How
was her number.
large of accounts that she knew that I knew how large of accounts she was working with at any given time.
Of course. Yeah.
So, it's not apples to apples.
No.
Anywhere you look or who you speak with, of course. But that perspective blew me away.
Those are great little nuggets. Like, you'll think about the 5 or 6 things that really stuck with you from other people that helped you run your business better. Yeah. Yeah. We all have them. I think that's a great one. We gotta mark that one down as far as like the best advice ever.
I want to get pregnant, but wait, we have things to pay for. Like what? What? Did you say 2 or 20? Like, are you sure?
Oh, I love that. Well, but that reality is what we need to hear sometimes, because if you need that scare to say, holy shit, I need this. I got to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And whatever whatever that number is.
About this.
Yeah, that's great. What mindsets do you think need resetting? If you think back of the last year, like, was there any mindset you had throughout the year that you got to get rid of now?
For sure.
What do you got?
It's not good enough.
Yeah. That was in your mind too much.
Yeah.
And did it slow you down?
No.
What did it do?
It fucked with my head.
Yeah, I know.
And my self-esteem.
Oh my God. So you were questioning the quality.
Yeah.
Was it because of times and like timelines and like that you just had to ship it and be like, I can't do
mainly because new client, wow factor needs to be there. I need to blow them out of the water. Yeah. I'm not blown myself.
Yeah. Okay. Honest. Totally right. Yeah. I love that.
Tomorrow morning, fresh eyes, still not blown.
Mm-hmm.
Do I push back on timeline and say I need another week? Or do I just
deliver? What did you do most of the time? Deliver?
The money's not there to ask for more time.
No, you're right. Or the timeline's not there.
Does my reputation matter more than the request and the money altogether?
That's a great way to look at it. I got to admit, I think I had a lot of that too.
It is so useful that you're nodding your head and agreeing with me as I'm saying this, because I have insecurities even admitting it, actually.
But this is that safe zone, right? We know.
I know.
Everyone listening has had it at one point or another, or struggling with it right now.
But don't you agree that, we've presented so many times at this point, so don't you agree that the concept you spend the most time on is never the winner?
So
hardly ever the winner.
Yeah. So I think what I've been learning with that is, number one, I've always had the thought in my mind, there's always someone better than me. There's 1,000 people
but that's
could
the
do
world
better.
We live in, inevitably.
I know. But I've never, like, where I say, maybe it's the working with me, maybe it's my commitment to you as a client, as a partner in this world that we're going to be trying to create, or this brand, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's what I feel is my A+ game, rather than you could get amazing creative from someone, but what if they are the worst person to deal with, or charge way too much?
Such a good point.
And they have that I love shattering the misconception that graphic designers are hard to work with, or you'll never hear back from them. When I hear that from a client, I'm like, I'd rather hear that than like your logo was A+. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
I'd rather. So I've always valued that part, and I would say you could probably find 1,000 other people that will do a much better job design-wise. But what you won't get is this, right? You won't get that. So yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to corner you too much with that.
Go for
but
it.
When you say this and that, can you specify one tidbit example that you might indicate that you won't get from anywhere else when you're talking that talk?
Oh yeah, I think it's my understanding one of brand development. I'm usually a fan or a advocate or well educated in that space of the product itself.
Okay.
Food, let's call it food and beverage.
Yes.
I have enough knowledge of what the product needs to be,
Yes.
which I feel like a lot of designers
Anyone can design to
another
it.
competitor might not understand that.
Yep.
The one thing when I was talking to Fred Hart a few weeks ago, a buddy of mine that we've connected through on LinkedIn and interviewed him, he had a great line with something similar to that. He's like, know everything about the project you're going into, the deep dive or whatever it is. And if it's a new company or a new this or a new product, I want to know everything about that and the particular consumer, because sometimes the design is the easy part. Getting to that is the hard part. All the steps to it.
We talked about this with
Right.
Brian.
Yeah.
It's that oftentimes it's the most minimal phase of any given project. The discovery and the research and the competitive analysis is massive.
Yes. And let's face it, ChatGPT has helped me be more confident in my research, in my
Yeah, same.
correspondence, in my presentations. And that confidence now made up for any of the stuff that I might have felt like this isn't the best concept in the world. Like, it's not good enough. You know, that your initial thing here. So finding ways to give yourself the confidence that you like, okay, I've given the best I can and that's all I can do. And if they don't go with it or whatever, let them. I'll move to the next guy. I'll move to the next company.
That's incredible, and I commend that you are able to say that at any given time, because I in my mind I can always look back and think I could have done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I do that all the time.
I remember the day that I was preparing second round concepts, and I remember a flash of edgy, and I decided not to go with it. And I wish I would have just gone for it.
Yeah. So mark that down and be like, the next time you are second guessing yourself, particularly if it's something a little bit edgy or, like you said, flashy or something like that, like drop it in, like let that be. But as long as there's rationale in there that's saying why you're putting it in there,
For sure.
right?
You know what else is happening?
That's always helpful.
Is that I'm not delivering the 3 magic concepts anymore.
Oh, have you gone down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm preparing the one winning layout.
I love that. Yeah, I did that yesterday with a estimate, and it was the first time I've sent an estimate out saying one mood board, one concept, and that's it. And I can't
at that
wait to see
time
what
that you were
happens.
preparing those numbers, did you already understand that there was some restrictions with budget?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so good job. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how we can answer it, right?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the time is money. So if you can't afford my normal fee, whatever it is, and I think you're going to come in a little bit less, I'm not discounting my work. I will lower the scope. And I was so happy because I had just watched something about Paul Rand when he presented a logo to Steve Jobs. And Steve said something like, oh, yeah, this is a great first start, whatever, guys. I'm thinking this, whatever. And Paul Rand goes, oh, I don't know if you got misunderstood this, but this is a take it or leave it thing.
Did he say it that way?
Yeah. And it was like, and Steve was like, oh. And I mean, of all people to challenge with that.
For sure.
But Paul Rand.
He held his ground.
And that's the thing. And, how many times have we talked about, I want to be more respected for me as the expert coming into this thing with the client. Show one freaking option. I can't wait to see if this happens, because that was my gateway in. I've never felt comfortable. I've narrowed it down to 2 mostly in anything we're doing.
Well, more so over the
wow.
past year, it has been 2. I'm with you.
But the one is just, what a goal. What a goal.
Yeah. Well, Look, brand identity is quite different for me
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I'll spitball and I'll duplicate and then I'll add a little and then oftentimes now I'm not leaving any in the dark. I'm just like I'm just like showing it all out there just in case something sparks something, and then round 2 is far more productive, right?
Yeah.
Based on the read from that first go round.
That's true.
But if, for example, they want an infographic alongside that homepage layout, it's like, yeah, you're just going to get one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, in that case, for sure. Particularly if the aesthetic is already established, right?
I mean,
and the infographic can carry over from that.
It hadn't been, but I felt like
it will, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's going to come from the aesthetic that has been made.
Right.
So, yeah. I think there's ways to find it.
That's pretty cool.
My number one thing there is like finding the gateway into that one option thing.
Yeah.
Just to experiment with it, because I never felt good enough to do that. And just going back to your main point, like not feeling it was good enough. And I was like, wait a minute. Now that we do so much discovery and background checks and research, and we have a mission statement, we have all these things.
Why would we not prove that single concept now?
How are there more than one options even available to create that?
And if there are, maybe it is a subliminal iteration from that main theme that you present, because there's a couple of nuances that you can showcase that spin off of that main first winning concept.
That's true.
So I'm with you.
That's true.
But it did take me a while to get here, I have to say.
Oh, I used to show, like, I think at one point I had 8, and I was like, what was I thinking? Like 8 concepts, I would be like. But my concepts are no longer
in my background.
My concepts are no longer just 1 or 2 pages of a logo and maybe an application. It is, 6 pages to show off that concept. So first of all, there's no time to do that for 8. There's only time to do that for 2.
It can multiply in an instant.
Yeah, yeah. And what if you can give them some taste of the design before they're seeing the actual first presentation?
Okay, tell me what you mean by that.
So let's say you've hinted at a few things and you have enough things on your discovery board or your correspondence with them or something they've sent in as inspiration or something you have crafted that's sloppy and that's like, very cut and paste. But if you're showing them a few visuals before that thing and then the presentation is the call it the sum of all that stuff and they're a part of it, I think they might just go, you nailed it.
Okay.
And if it's all based on data, their personal preference can't creep in because it is based on everything you've agreed on. So if it had to be
to that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So anything they might say, you want them. There's a great book I started reading that was all about cool. how to get what you want from your client, how to position things for the right response. I'll put it in the show notes.
Interesting.
But, it's cool. Blowing my mind. Yeah.
You can use Fireflies, you can Zoom companion now too. Mm-hmm. But in any event, if there were an argument that's like, I don't remember saying that, and there's pushback, you can sure as shit pull up that former summary.
Uh-huh. Yep. Exactly. So
which we weren't able to do before.
Yeah. It's all like a recipe. I look at what the final dish that you hand over is the result of everything you've put in, the ingredients, the time, the care.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Right? The research, the harmony, how does it all work together? And it gets better and better each time. And I bet a lot of our listeners are in the same boat. They're like, think of what you're doing now as opposed to what you did 5 years ago. It's a whole other
totally
situation.
You can't even compare at this point.
Yeah, so I'm kind of, that's my thing that I want to reset is keep that going. Like keep improving and learning from each pitch to know what I did right, what I did wrong. And if it needs a little bit more hand-holding, I want to get to that thing where I present the one option, not via this solution, which was mostly because of budget, but I want to do it in the next big one and see what happens. As long as you're it's in the front, it's in the the estimate, it's in the contract and all that, and it's in your, your onboarding. I don't think it's like, that's what I'm trying for. That's going to be the goal for 2025, for sure.
Another thing that happened this past year that's unusual is that those that I have selected to step in and run a team member role, support role with, they had referred me to other accounts for design and running lead UI.
Nice.
So talk about giver's gain. That it's all been me in the past, like supporting MCAM, part of the MCAM team, and preparing this for MCAM clientele. And there's been a little bit of like some reciprocity that's been happening this past year, which has been lovely.
You're coming in under their team, right?
Even if it's just, can you prepare an estimate for this client? And that's another thing that's odd. Usually I'm in contact with the point of contact on the other end, and they're saying to me, this is all they gave me. Can you prepare an estimate? And I don't have any communication with them.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of blindly putting together an estimate. That feels like the good old days, like more so than what happens now. But that did take me by surprise this past year that happened a couple of times. Like, oh.
But isn't that a result of your network and the amount of people around you has not only grown, but the trust they'll take and put in you to say, Mikelle, come on board with our thing. Yeah, that's the same way we've done with you on yours.
And or they feel pleased with the collaboration that took place supporting one of my accounts, that they don't want to have to start at point zero again.
Yeah, you're right. That's so true.
And I know it can be exhausting. There's already been a foundation that's been set there with how we collaborate. So we're not starting like to get to know each other and seeing how the strong suits of each other.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's something not to be taken for granted.
Yeah, that happened like twice this year, where it was like a old contact or something, or even an old client that is now at a new place, and I partnered in with them in a way that I came in with them rather than me getting them to come in with me to one of my clients. I love that. That's such an organic thing to have happened.
And I think feed each other. That's respectful.
The power of your network in that way is like, think about how before all these ways we can connect, how did that happen organically?
I know.
20, 30 years ago.
I think about that at times.
Gosh, your go-to people were like 4. And now it's like 40. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. But that's mutual respect.
Totally.
Those actions are based on mutual respect.
And you got to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, lastly, what's one new habit or routine that you want to build into your creative life next year or this year?
Oh, I just need to inquire with AI more than ever.
Good. That's a great one. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before recording. You're seeing the benefits in a lot of ways.
I am. And they've been minimal because I haven't toyed with it too much, but I get it now more and more.
I love that. That's really, really cool.
Were you recording at the time that you were talking about the pirate packaging?
No.
I love that example so much.
Yeah, right? Like, again, there's so many ways to, if a client has a limited budget, or if a client that there's one little area there that AI can come in and be a partner with you.
And there's something to be said about hiring an individual that knows how to utilize and push color tones or push curvature units into the fold versus
We're still a part of it.
That's...
Yeah. AI is not taking over. It's... God, I even just saw a headline. I saw a headline from some tops group of CEOs, and they're like, if you're not embracing it now, be prepared. And that was such a warning. It's such a warning. And I still, as much as I use it, I'm still not 1,000% there yet. Like it's... No. We have to question it.
Let's speak honestly about that. I don't know that we ever will be. And that's the whole fucking idea.
Exactly.
It'll be constantly advancing in our repertoire no matter what, all around us.
We don't question any new ability that our computer or graphic design
No, it's a part of the game.
is happening.
You have to accept that.
We embraced that 25 years ago when
You
the
have
Mac
to accept
came
that.
in and took over this industry. Those people fought it for months, for over a year. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, that got ugly at times, man.
It did, and this is so. Every 5 weeks it's a whole new story with what AI is doing and everything. And so, I think that's a cool thing to kind of keep in mind as far as what new habit or routine you want to get into. I think that's really cool. I would say.
How about for you? Yeah.
God, new habit or routine.
Well, you kind of mentioned it early on. You were flying by the seat a bit.
Yes, I want to be a little more structured with schedule, with like.
Which is so weird to hear Nick say to me. That's crazy.
Maybe this is the first time I've ever been so challenged in it that like my typical way did not work. My typical way was like, again, all success, everything good, but like I lucked out. Other people did a lot of stuff. Other people handled timing and structure. But I think that was also a lesson of letting go of control too, which I have a hard time doing. And I think anybody that's a solo entrepreneur wants to do it all. And having someone do travel for me or having someone book the thing, I was like, that's out of my hands. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, interesting.
So there's a benefit there, I think, too.
Did they hook you economy coach?
No. A few times it was pretty nice.
Amazing.
I
love it.
And I got all the points because my credit card was being used. So I was
Great.
like, let's go.
Right on.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm making room for more vacation next year. No.
No,
I got plenty of that this year.
You can use that to an advantage. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I got plenty this year. I feel really balanced in that way a lot.
Good.
But I would just say something to keep in mind. I like editing a lot more. I love having to edit things for our podcast and some other stuff. It's opened up a whole other area of like timing, sequence, like it's like learning a whole new skill from base one, right? Like I love that part of it. I love something new. I'd love to get into motion a little bit more. That would be kind of fun to mess around with.
Intimidation hits. Yep.
Yeah. We'll see. And then my other thing I want to leave a little bit more room for is I'm trying to figure out, teaching is still the number one, it's so ever changing. And particularly with AI, and particularly with how hard this industry is for young creatives getting into the field. The thing I want to routinely figure out more is talking with other people in the education world, how to fine-tune my the stuff that I give to my class, because we've never been so challenged up until now building
Do you share these point of views with so many others that you know undoubtedly who you would reach out to any given point?
And we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, it's great.
And then getting all these cities that I got to go to, I got to meet students that are in different cities, very similar to my students here in LA, and they're all experiencing the exact same problem. So it's kind of like, what can we do in our industry to build a better candidate in these kids? Because they're going to be, man, it's just tough. I have students that are 6 months out from graduating and they still haven't found a job. I have students that are, unfortunately, after 3 to 4 years of a really good first job, they lost it. So it's kind of like, got laid off.
Yeah.
It all happened, right before Christmas too. It's like
terrible. Oh, Merry Christmas.
Right? Yeah. So what else could we do to kind of help and all? So maybe it's this way of the fusion of, what AI can do. It's weird teaching it because it's kind of like, we can use it and be like, it's helping us out, but imagine trying to teach it. It's weird. So
I can't imagine.
I'm just trying to find something new and unique there to do and to give them that self-confidence and that what else can we do? Like, that's why I love so many of these people we get to meet or bring on the podcast. Anyone that can share something that is so optimistic and good for a young designer to hear and make it feel like, wait, I did pick a good career.
Yeah.
You picked a great industry. I want that to be alive.
Yeah. That you want that to be continued winning message. But gosh, even when I felt secure with the one primary corporate position or creative agency position, I was always running freelance on the side.
Oh, you were?
I was always.
I never did.
Now,
until I heard your guys.
I don't know that I have that in common with everybody.
Yeah. No, but
it wasn't easy.
No, that's a lot to juggle. It really is. Particularly,
but
you want the job to be good.
Is it any more now than what you're doing on a daily with teaching and running clientele for you right now, and the way it has been for years?
Oh, it's the same volume.
You just learn how to manage
it. But you learn how
better.
to, you learn.
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago, you're like, save me. Like, I don't know how to put these two worlds together.
No.
And
that comes with practice. You're totally right.
Yeah. I think I had a contract with the company I worked for that I didn't have a side contract or side gig. They did not want you to have that. And I didn't need to, which was good, but I wanted to. Oh my God. So I'm loving every minute of this self-employment thing. I'm going to use it. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, there's so many areas that just check those boxes.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that was good. That was a good detox. I feel like I got a lot out.
What a great episode. I mean,
yes.
We can run detox 6 months in.
This should be an ongoing
I love detox.
Yeah, because we never want to do like the bitch fest or this sucks, whatever.
No, and I think that you and I will be able to reflect more halfway through than the whole lump year. So that's something that might be neat to keep in mind.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the best tips I heard about all these people making New Year's resolutions and everything. It's like, don't do it for the year. Do it quarterly. Do it in chunks.
Sure,
that's
sense.
So much better. So,
yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, that was great catching up to 2025.
Yeah, isn't it winning? Sometimes these episodes are like I get to catch up with a friend and record at the same time.
And we always nail it. It's like right at an hour.
Oh, good. Perfect. Yeah, thanks for being flexible about timing today, Nick.
Oh, no problem. We got it made.
I'm glad it was able to work out.
Yeah. All right, guys. Be sure to share this. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Hopefully you guys are loving the weeklies, and we're going to continue on through the next year. So should be fun. Bye, guys.